right, to all who are new here, my name is Dr. Michelle Henney, and I'd like to welcome you to Relevate Sports Medicine's Virtual Journal Club. For additional webinar educational opportunities, you can visit our website and register directly for the webinar or sign up for the email list to be notified of upcoming webinars. We are continuing to update our schedule, so check back often. This video will be available for review after this journal club in the follow-up email. The information contained in the video content represents the views and opinions of the presenters and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Relevate Sports Medicine. The mere appearance of video content on the website does not constitute an endorsement by RSM or its affiliates of such video content. The video content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The video content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have read or seen on the site. RSM hereby disclaims any and all liability to any party for any direct, indirect, implied, punitive, special, incidental, or other consequential damages arising directly or indirectly from any use of the video content which is provided as is and without warranties. For all athletic trainers intending to get live CEUs from the VOC, you will receive an email 1 hour after the webinar concludes, which includes a link to the combined quiz, evaluation, and assessment. You will have up to 72 hours, and for this one, it's up until Monday at 8 a.m. To complete the quiz and the evaluation. This email will come from customercare@gotowebinar.com. Please ensure that this is done to receive your statement of credit. If you don't receive the follow-up email or you have any other concerns, then contact us via our email at journalclub@relevatesportsmedicine.com. Once the statement of credit is available for download from our website, you will receive an email notification. If you have any questions during the webinar, please submit the question, and we will review questions at the conclusion of the presentation. If you cannot see the PowerPoint slides and you're accessing the webinar from your mobile phone, swipe the screen to the left or to the right and the slides will become visible. Dr. Daniel Bedney merged his love of sports and medicine into a rewarding career in primary care sports medicine, serving as the head team physician for the Osceola Magic, the G League affiliate of the Orlando Magic, and a team physician for the Orlando Magic. Concurrently, he is the Associate Program Director at the Advent Health Family Medicine Program in Winter Park, Florida. His medical philosophy was shaped in medical school at Loma Linda University, where he learned whole person care, caring for the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of patients. He has extended this concept to now serving the whole athlete. His greatest joy is spending time with his wife of 11 years, Dr. Lauren Bedney, and their 3 sons, Aidan, Liam, and Jalen. He believes his mission in life is to optimize who he was designed to be and to inspire others to do the same through transparency, human connection, and delivery of truth in new and creative ways. And he will be speaking today on Beyond the Athlete, your load management plan. I'll have you take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henney. I think there's a little delay on my part, so we're just gonna keep going through and hopefully the connection gets a little bit better, and I apologize in advance.
And then there's the share button at the bottom to share your screen.
What we are doing. It is not allowing me to share, Dr. Henney. Or maybe go this way. Here we go. We got it. Just give me audible, Dr. Henney, that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for attending. Thank you, Dr. Henney, for the opportunity to share with you guys. It is a privilege. As I was looking at this title and as I was thinking about it, I was like, I think it's a little misleading, and hopefully people joined to gain knowledge, but we'll be talking about your personal load management today and not load management of the athlete. So I hope that is still beneficial, and I believe we'll have a good time together. I have nothing to disclose. And it was 2011 I am sitting in the training room at the Kia Center. Then it was called the Amway Center. I'm a second year resident at Advent Health, and I've decided to pursue a career in sports medicine. In order to do that, I have to beef up my resume. So I've been covering sports left and right. I've covered high school football games. I've covered roller derby. And tonight, I get to cover the Solar Bears. I'm there with my mentor, who is the person that I want to be like. And we're there with the athletic trainer. And the coach is in the room next to us, and you can hear his robust language with his explicit language, or his explicit language. And amongst all of that, I started to have a conversation with my mentor and the athletic trainer. And we started talking about my career goals and how I want to be a sports medicine doctor. It so happens that I had just proposed to my girlfriend, and she was now my fiance. And we were planning on getting married the next year. It was at that point that the athletic trainer decided to share some wisdom with me. And it was a little unexpected, but he said, do not get married. Sports is really hard. And I don't know if your marriage can last. What he didn't know was that I knew this. And I had the firm belief that hard is always worth doing when hard will get you where you belong. And I felt called to sports medicine. I felt like it was my purpose. So I didn't take his advice, and I knew that I was going to move forward. He also didn't know that this sense of purpose was instilled in me since I was little. You see, in the summer of 1986, I was found face down on my grandparents' pool, or on top of my grandparents' pool, by my mother. They don't know how long I had been there, but they quickly called 911, and my aunt, who was a nurse, happened to be there, and she started CPR on me, but I didn't have a pulse. I didn't have a heart rate. Wasn't breathing. I was dead. And EMS came and they rushed in, and they were unable to save me. So they rushed me to the community hospital, and I was still without a pulse, and I still wasn't breathing. My parents sat in the waiting room, and I don't know how long it was, but now that I have 3 kids of my own, I know that any time that you think your child is not well is too long. It was then that the doctors came through the doors with the chaplain, and they said, he has a pulse, he's breathing. So I was told this story ever since I was little. I felt like I was full of purpose, and part of my purpose was to be a sports medicine doctor. So I decided to move forward and pursue that. And it has been such a rewarding career, as I'm sure some of you can attest. But the thing about sports is that there can be some pressure that comes with your purpose. Sometimes I felt like Louisa growing up. Under the surface, I feel berserk as a tightrope walker in a 3-ring circus. Under the surface, was Hercules ever like, yo, I don't want to fight service? Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. A flaw or a crack, the straw in the stack that breaks the camel's back. What breaks the camel's back? It's pressure. And I felt pressure to fulfill this purpose, as I'm sure some of you may feel pressure from time to time. So today I want to talk about that pressure that you may feel and come up with a system that can help you deal with that pressure that you deal with, not only from being an athletic trainer, but just being a human being. So I want to gain some clarity on factors that impact the pressure. We want to identify modifiable factors. We want to learn effective ways to actively decrease, and we want to create a personal system to fulfill and sustain your purpose. Have you ever felt pressure? I'm sure you haven't. You're just athletic trainers. There's just athletes that are in your hands. I think sports is one of those things where you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. There is pressure on us to perform, and I'm sure that you feel it. I know that you felt it too because research shows that athletic trainers do feel the pressure, and 17 to 40% of athletic trainers report high levels of burnout. Just a reminder on what burnout is. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has been successfully managed, that has not been successfully managed, I'm sorry. It's characterized by three dimensions. And this is really related to work, okay? So burnout, when we talk about it, it's usually job related. It's not so much life related. There's other diagnoses for that stuff, but specifically burnout usually has to do with work. And there's three domains. There's the feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion. There is increased mental distance from one's job, also known as depersonalization, and then reduced professional efficacy and not as efficient with your job. We grade burnout by the Maslow burnout inventory. Now, this addresses those three dimensions that we just talked about, and it's a 22-item questionnaire with a 7-point Likert scale. Okay, that high emotional exhaustion, if it's greater than 27, it could be consistent with burnout. If there's depersonalization greater than 10, could be associated, and then low scores on the personal accomplishment less than 33 can definitely be a threshold to identify burnout. Now, it's widely used and it's employed in approximately 86% of the burnout studies that we have. So this is the main way that research and we can measure burnout. There are free tests on, actually, I don't know if they're free. I'll take that back. But if you feel like you're burned out, you may have access to them. And if you get with me later, we can make sure that you get access to that. So what about being an athletic trainer could cause burnout? I don't hear some of you guys, but I imagine some of you guys are chuckling because you're like everything. So in the literature, there's risk factors for burnout, specifically for athletic trainers. Some of those risk factors are female gender, early career. Think about your early career, less than 3 years of experience, and the stress that you were going through, an age less than 30, and then work addiction. And specifically, athletic trainers are really prone to work addiction, thinking that they have to work all the time. And I know I'm talking to somebody probably right now. So causes of burnout in the literature really show that work-life conflict is a factor, a role strain, and then challenges with professional socialization. And we're going to talk about these specifically in a little bit more detail. So that work-life conflict, that's really that there's this conflict between my work life and my real life, my responsibilities outside of work and my responsibilities at work. They're constantly going at each other. There's a high prevalence of this, with 60% of athletic trainers reporting work interfering with family and personal life. Athletic training is one of those things that you miss holidays, you miss birthday parties, you miss weddings because you're taking care of the athlete. There's long hours and travel demands. There's understaffing. I'm sure some of you are overwhelmed and could use just a little bit of help as well. There's lack of schedule flexibility, last minute changes. You have to be there for the athlete. You have to be at this game. The coach will decide that practice is at this time. So you have to be flexible for your athletes, but less flexible when it comes to home. Seasonal workload fluctuations. There's peak seasons and there's off season. There's pressure from professional expectations. So conflict between the job responsibilities and personal roles. And we see this even in people that do not have children. What about work setting demands? What about gender related roles? So female athletic trainers, the added strain that societal or parenting expectations can place on you. Males, that work-life conflict is more influenced by workload intensity and seasonal demands. What if you're planning a family? That could add a lot of stress. How about limited separation between work and personal life? There are no boundaries. Athletes can call you at any time. Coaches can call you at any time. Parents can call you at any time. There's no boundaries. And what about insufficient support systems? And we talked about that being a little bit overwhelmed as well. So it's not surprising that in the literature, the higher your work-life conflict is, it's associated with increased burnout levels. And I don't think anybody is surprised by that. Now, there's role strain as well. That's the inability to meet the job role demands effectively. And there's different types of role strain. So there's role ambiguity, where there's unclear expectations for you and you're doing a little bit of everything. Maybe role conflict, competing or incompatible responsibilities, role overload, demands exceeding time and energy, role incongruity, mismatch between job demands and personal values. Sometimes you'll be asked to do something that you may not agree with. Role incompetence, especially in those early years. You may not feel equipped. You may not feel like you have the knowledge as well. So that can put a strain on your role. There's a high workload, is that key driver, and working greater than 50 hours per week significantly increases your role strain. Excessive workload strongly linked to burnout and emotional exhaustion. And staffing shortages, we talked about that, and 67% of Division I programs, these are D1 programs. And this impacts retention, right? So role strain contributes to intent to leave, and that strain can cause people to take a different career path and leave athletic training. And it's often the reason why people leave. And it doesn't matter if you're in high school or college, that role strain can happen, although it's more prevalent in the high school setting where you have to cover multiple sports. You have to, there is no off season. You may be asked to teach as well, right? In some of our high schools and stuff. So you can imagine everything that's on your plate. And it's no surprise that increased workload plus role strain increases burnout risk and professional attrition. How about challenge with professional socialization? And this is just, how do I move and how do I operate in this profession over time? And there's really those two stages, right? There's that anticipatory stage where you're like, man, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to work with athletes. This is going to be great. And then there's organizational, where you get into it and you're like, oh, this may not be exactly what I want. And there's a corporate aspect of things, or real world integration can start to gnaw at you. And there are challenges, right? So difficulty navigating any phase of that development. Who do you talk to? Unclear role sometimes in that organization chart. Where do you lie? Exposure to workplace politics and administrative decisions. And I know you guys don't experience any workplace politics, but some people do. About difficult transitions and lack of support during professional development, increased burnout. So you can see why athletic training clearly is inherently pressure ridden, and a job of high pressure. But pressure is not all bad. And we chose a career that comes with that pressure. But pressure is not all bad. Pressure is actually vital. What is one of the things that we take anytime an athlete comes in or somebody comes into my office? We take their blood pressure, right? That blood pressure is important. That pressure moves things along so that it can get to all the organs, and pressure is needed so that you can reach your goals, reach your purpose, and achieve success. Now, but pressure, it can either leave the system in shock, it can overstress the system, or it can support the system. So say you have low blood pressure. That leads to hypoperfusion, organ failure, shock, and death. What if Pressure is too high, high blood pressure, stresses the system, organ failure, and death. So low blood pressure results in death. High blood pressure results in death. And what I want to suggest to you is that there are going to be areas in your life, in your personal life, in your work life that you probably need to increase the pressure. But there's also aspects of your work that are high pressure, and both will lead to death. But what I want to do today is talk about that high pressure situation and how we can control the pressure, because we don't want to eliminate pressure because it does push us, but we want to control pressure. And when pressure is controlled, there's adequate perfusion, it supports organs, and there is life. And that's what we want for all of us.
I'm sorry to interrupt very briefly. We weren't able to see your screen, so I went ahead and jumped to the slide that you're on. And then if you don't mind, you'll just direct me on when to advance the slide.
Perfect. Okay. So let me exit out of this screen, and then you pulled it up, so then I can just look at it. Okay. You can go to the next slide. And next slide. So we want to control that pressure. You can go to the next one as well. And we need to manage our load. So what I want to do for the remainder of the time is give you a framework that helps me remember when life gets overwhelming, when there's high pressure, how I can make adjustments in my life so that I can control the pressure. And it is science-based and it's evidence-based and stuff too, but it gives me a framework to think about these things, and hopefully you can take something from it and apply it to your life. Next one. So we're going to do a little bit of physics, okay? So pressure equals force divided by area. Therefore, if pressure is high, what do we need to do? Hit it. So if pressure is high, we need to increase area or decrease force. You can go to the next slide. And if that's hard, that's a hard concept for you guys, then just think about like the shower head, right? So that shower head is very wide. So the pressure is going to be less, but it's going to feel kind of good, right? So if you want higher pressure, you can get a smaller area, and then it'll increase that frequency of that water, increase that pressure of that water and stuff as well. Next slide. So in order to kind of put this in the framework, I want you to think of force, though, as mass times acceleration. So then the formula becomes, and you can go to the next one. Then the next one, pressure becomes mass times acceleration divided by area. Okay. Therefore, if we decrease mass and acceleration, increase area, we can decrease the pressure. So let's talk about decreasing mass. And for decreasing mass, I want you to think of elimination. What am I carrying that I don't necessarily have to carry? I can remember I was about to have my second son, and I was associate program director of the family medicine program. I was the team physician for Osceola Magic. I was one of the team physicians for the Orlando Magic. I had 2 high schools underneath me. I was a husband. I was a father. I was an elder at my church. And my wife set me down and she said, "You are doing the most. You need to cut back." So I had to sit down and I listened to my wife, and she was so right. I was carrying so many things that I felt that pressure increasing. So I had to give up something, and I ended up giving up 2 high schools. And immediately when I sent that email, when I had that conversation, I felt the pressure go down. And then I was able to be more present for my family and stuff. Now, these are hard decisions to make sometimes. Sometimes shifting, sometimes saying no is hard to do. But what I think you'll find is that your pressure will immediately decrease. And you can go to the next one. What can you eliminate? What in your life are you carrying that you can get rid of. Because the reality is, go to the next one, everything we carry is not necessary for the journey. I don't know about you guys. I'm sometimes packed way too much, right? Uh, I'll be there. I'll be traveling and stay for 2 nights, but I'll pack like 7 outfits. It's too much. I don't need all of those things for my trip. But often in life, what I find, and it happens to my residents, it happens to me, it happens to my wife, is we carry a lot because we just can. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. So everything you carry is not needed for the journey and for the purpose. So let's get to some evidence-based ways that we can decrease that mass that we feel in sports. So I want you to think about this as, how do I lower that total weight of responsibilities and stressors? Okay. How about you identify root causes of your burnout? Is it that emotional exhaustion? Is it that depersonalization? What's the root cause? Is it the organization? Do you need help? Do you need um, assistance? Do you need to have AI help you with some task, right? What can you eliminate that you're doing? How can you streamline things so that you can improve? And what is that root cause? Sometimes the hardest word to say is no. So sometimes decreasing mass is simply just not adding anything else to your plate. Sometimes it's being clear about, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, what my strengths are, and I am not going to say yes to things that do not align with my strength or add to my plate. How about prioritizing high impact tasks? And that can be hard sometimes, but you sometimes have to think like, what is, I want to operate at the highest level of my training. So what should I as an athletic trainer really be doing? And what can my assistant athletic trainers doing or my student athletic trainers doing, so that I'm operating at the highest level and I'm eliminating things that, yes, I can do, but maybe they're not moving the needle, except the needle of pressure. But when it comes to outcomes and rehab, it's not moving the needle. Okay. Advocate for adequate staffing. Now, I know that can be challenging depending on which area you're in and stuff, but the more help you can get, the better off you'll be. Reduce unnecessary responsibilities. We talked about that a little bit. Improve organizational structure. Clear scheduling. Defined roles. Have your staff know exactly what they're doing so you're not doing them. Okay. And address workload imbalance and role overload. So those are some ways that you can decrease the mass and therefore decrease the pressure that you may be feeling. Next slide. Let's talk about adjusting acceleration, okay? So remember, it's mass times acceleration. So what we need to do is decrease our pace sometimes. Now, that's hard to do as an athletic trainer sometimes. This person's pulling you, this person's pulling you, you have to do this, you have to do this. The clock's running, you have to get all the athletes out on the field. And that's understandable for game day and stuff, and that's understandable for practice. But what about life in general? Are you just at a pace that is that you are unable to keep up with? And all of us deal with athletes, right? We've all seen those athletes. They go too hard, right? And they go too hard, and then they don't have anything left or reserved in the tank. Okay. But what we want to do is we want to decrease the pace in our lives so that we can have endurance throughout, so we can fulfill our purpose. So let's talk about decreasing pace. And when we decrease pace, I want you to think of the word engage. We can go to the next one. And we want to engage your parasympathetic. Okay. When you're fast paced, your sympathetic is taking over. Okay. We all know that our sympathetic system is what keeps us alive, right? If a bear started to come into this room, all of a sudden, pupils would constrict. I would not have to go to the bathroom. I would be focused on getting out of there. That's that sympathetic nervous system. Now, the problem is when that sympathetic nervous system is triggered, but there's no bear, there's no snake, there's no fear, but that sympathetic is just taking over. That can be expressed as anxiety, your heart racing, a panic attack, right? Sympathetic is in overdrive, and you can feel that pressure just building up. So we need to engage our parasympathetic. And we can go to the next one. Let's talk about engaging our parasympathetic, specifically breathing, rest. If you're somebody of faith, praying, all of those things actually trigger or engage your parasympathetic. How many of us deep breathe daily? That is a simple way to just reduce the pressure that we're feeling. Even and we see this in athletes all the time, right? Old buddy steps up to the free throw line. What does he do? He takes a deep breath. He's trying to engage that parasympathetic, right? He's trying to engage it so he can feel less pressure, so we can hit these free throws, so we can get this championship, right? So how about in life? Let's engage that parasympathetic. There's other ways though to decrease your pace. Okay, so we want to create space for recovery and rest. And I do not have to talk to anybody about recovery that's in this seminar. We all know that our athletes need rest and recovery. Matter of fact, the people that frustrate us the most sometimes are the ones that just go, 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 go. And you're like, bro, stop. You need to recover and rest. So the lessons that we teach our athletes, let's take them into our personal life though as well. Establish sustainable work-life rhythms. When you're coming up with plans and systems, make them attainable, make them sustainable. Sometimes when we make changes, we make too drastic of changes, and then we can't upkeep it. We can't keep it up, and then we get frustrated, and then we just stop it, right? Practice stress management strategies, and this can be mindfulness or exercise. And exercise, I know some of us want to do a lot if we exercise, but evidence shows that actually one of the best exercises that you can do is simply walking. Walking is associated with perceived stress being decreased and indirectly linked to improved well-being. Just simply walking. Maybe it's at the end of the day. Just go home and just either hop on a tread or just take a walk around the neighborhood. How about allowing appropriate disengagement from work? How about putting the cell phone away, putting it on focus, telling your, ooh, this is gonna rub some people the wrong way. How about telling your coaches, hey, after 10 o'clock or after 9 o'clock, like my phone is on focus. In a true emergency, yes, you can call, but come on, people just call sometimes, and it's not an emergency. So we could do that. Avoid constant, always on mindset. One of the athletic trainers I work with, she is always thinking about the athletes and always thinking about what we can do better, which makes her a fantastic athletic trainer, right? But what it can do is have her always on. And even if you go to Disney, there are on-stage areas and there are off-stage areas, right? So when you're on stage, yes, you need to be engaged, and you'll see the people at Disney being engaged and making sure that it's a magical place. But then when you're off stage, when you're in those underground tunnels and stuff, you can be yourself. You can take a breather. You can calm down. Do you have spaces where you can just be yourself, where you can decrease the pace so that you feel less pressure and reduce your risk of burnout? You want to decrease the pace. And let's go to the next one. Now, sometimes decreasing pace is not enough, and sometimes you just need to stop. Okay, sometimes you just need to go on a beach somewhere, go on a cruise somewhere, and just rest. We go to the next one. So finally, we're going to talk about increasing area. And you can go to the next one. Really, I want you to think of the word expansion here, okay? And we're going to expand so that we don't feel that pressure. And some of the things that we've talked about kind of already apply. So we're going to look for a community, right? We're going to have people at work that we can share the burden with. We're going to have a community that we can share our stress with. We're going to have a community that we can share the things that are stressing us with, okay? Then there's going to be communication, and communication is just key. Sometimes just saying I'm stressed, saying that I need help. Sometimes that's the hardest thing. And I'll speak as a man. Sometimes it's just hard for me to say I can't handle this or I need help and stuff. So sometimes just communication is a way that we can increase area. And then there's communion as well. Now, communion in the literature, or communion, what I think of communion is your faith. Now, you don't have to be a person of faith to be spiritual. And there's evidence that some athletic trainers, they think they benefit from being in the faith, but it's very inconclusive if it benefits as far as burnout and stuff. So to each their own. So these are different ways and evidence-based ways that we can increase our area. Okay, we want to distribute that pressure across the system of support. Okay. Another practical way that you can think about this, about increasing area, is if somebody has tennis elbow, what do? We give them a tennis elbow strap, right? And that's really because all that pressure is going to that lateral epicondyle, okay? But what we do with that tennis elbow brace is we distribute the pressure in a larger area so they feel less pain, right? Same thing we want to do here. So we want to build strong social support systems, okay? Family, friends, coworkers. We want to foster team collaboration and shared responsibilities. Is there a raised hand right now? I don't mind taking a question right now if you want. I know we have 23 minutes, but I'm almost done, so we can take a question now if we want. I'll keep talking. If they want to, they can interrupt. Okay. We want to strengthen that communication with supervisor and leadership. We want to seek mentorship and guidance, and even sometimes a life coach. Even the evidence shows that if you, even just 6 weeks of getting a life coach can benefit you when it comes to burnout. We want to promote a healthy workplace culture. Have you guys ever been in a toxic work environment? I know. I feel like residency was great, but there were certain rotations, certain attendings that you knew were kind of a little bit toxic in the culture. So, but if you can create a safe workplace that can increase your area and decrease pressure. You want to engage your community and relationships outside of work. Okay, sometimes all we have is work, but that can help us out. And then incorporate, we talked about this a little bit more. We can go to the next one. Now, if you're in leadership or you're more organizational, you can think about how do we decrease or how do we increase area across the board? Okay, how do I impact multiple people at one time, and how do I create a system really that can keep pressure low by increasing that area? The first thing you can do as a leader is model that balance that you want, right? So if you don't want your employees or people underneath you to pick up the phone or call you after 9, then you don't do it too, right? You show them that I am taking vacation, I am working out. You can model that work-life balance. You encourage boundaries and recovery. You provide administrative and emotional support. So do they have free mental health care, right? Can that be something? Is there a safe place that they can go to address some issues? Have you created an environment and access to these things that people can be better? Do they have administrative time to handle the paperwork to actually take care of the athletes? Create environments that reduce that work-life conflict, okay? And then you want to support staff through communication and flexibility. I'll end with this. It was 2012, and I was in my last year of medical school, and I had decided to go into family medicine. Alongside that decision, I decided to date a young lady. And I started dating this young lady, and we had been dating for about 6 months, and then we had to decide about residency. And for you guys that don't know, as physicians, what you do is you apply for a residency where you get further training, and you can do something called a couples match. A couples match is where you link your applications with another individual, And you don't have to be in a romantic relationship, but if you just want to link your applications, then whoever takes the one individual will take the other person. So early in this relationship, we had to actually talk, because we were both going into family medicine, about if we were going to do a couples match. I felt the pressure. Needless to say, the reason why I felt that pressure was because my girlfriend had better scores than me. I didn't want to mess up her purpose, her dreams with my application. So I had come to a unilateral decision that I was going to have a conversation with her, and I was going to relieve her of the burden of carrying my low scores into residency. So I sat her down and I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know we do not need to couples match. My scores are lower. I don't want to impact your dreams, your goals. And I think it'd be best maybe if we just unlink our application so I don't bring you down. And then my girlfriend was quiet for a little bit, and then she looked at me with a look that was unfamiliar at the time, but now 11 years into marriage is very familiar. It was a look like, you are not making any sense. And my wife now turned to me and she said, Danny, of course I want a couples match with you. Of course I want to continue our relationship. And we're go. I want us to be together. My wife decided that what my wife decided was that she would link our purpose together, and I felt the pressure decrease. So, in summary, I know that inherently athletic training has pressure, but I want you to create a system that helps prevent and protect you from burnout to decrease that pressure. And these three words can kind of help you eliminate what are you carrying that you can eliminate, engage your parasympathetic a little bit more, and lower your pace, and then expand your area, ask for help, and expand your network. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for allowing me to share my heart. You can go to the next one, and then any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
And then I can run through these questions. So Nadine is a frequent attendee of ours, and she wanted to contribute that the coaching staff also adds stress by pushing athletes to play injured.
For sure. I think one of the hardest things about being an athletic trainer is navigating relationships. Like, it's multiple relationships that you're trying to balance, and you're trying to balance the coach's desires, but your job is to take care of the athlete. So there's always this conflict and stuff too. So that can add a whole lot of stress to our job and stuff, for sure, for sure.
And then Naomi asks, can you expand on the faith component and how it has been helpful for you in managing stress and preventing burnout?
For sure. So my faith is very important to me. I grew up the son of a pastor. I'm in church like all the time. Not all the time, but at least once a week. But I grew up in church all the time. Um, so faith for me is an anchor, and because I'm a person of faith, I believe when I died at 15 months old, um, I believe God had a purpose for me. So I'm constantly trying to live in that purpose, um, for sure. So prayer is a huge thing. Music is a huge thing for me, but also just the community of the church that I go to is huge. And then I practice Sabbath. So one day out of seven, I do not work, and I'm with family. I go to church, and I rest. So it's fantastic.
And Marlene says, thank you, Dr. Bedney, a great speaker.
Thank you so much. Is that Brittany has a question?
Although if you do have questions, you'll have to pose them into the question box. Otherwise, I don't know how to. Yeah, if you post the question into the question box, then I can read them aloud.
And then I know we're wrapping up, but I'm gonna try and log on this other computer because I feel like my computer's about to die. And then right at the end, so let me just make sure. You can show my good looking family. And then the next slide, Dr. Henney, I have ways they can contact, or if they want to stay in contact, um, ways that they can. So um, just hit it again. So feel free to reach out in any of those ways. I'm more than happy to stay in contact, or if you have a question later that comes up.
And Sadie has a comment. She wanted to say thank you for a wonderful presentation. She's been struggling with work and life, and hearing your story and advice felt like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. I think that goes back to that communication though about increasing area. Like sometimes we just have to share our stories a little bit, and sometimes we're hesitant, especially when we get to a certain level or leadership. Um, People hold you probably in higher regards than or they hold you on this pedestal, and they forget that you're human. So sharing your humanity is a fantastic thing and something that I really enjoy.
Right. Nadine said, great presentation. Well, thank you again for an excellent presentation. Thank you for sharing ways for people to get in contact with you. Thank you to our many athletic trainers. I know we had well over 100. I think there was 170 people who registered for this talk. So it was certainly a very well interested in a topic of interest to a lot of athletic trainers. And at least right now, for many of them, they're on summer break and trying to figure out, navigate what the next year is going to bring and what that might look like for them.
For sure.
So yes, I think it was very timely in terms of, everyone's hopefully resting right now, and you're emphasizing the importance of that. Any last words before we conclude, Dr. Bedney?
I just wanted to thank you guys so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the work that you do. Sometimes it's a thankless job, but one of the things I love about being a sports doc is getting to work with you guys. Um, it's amazing to me that somebody can be in sports and not be a team player. Sports medicine is not an individual sport. It takes a team of us to take care of these athletes so that they can do something that they love, that they can be safe, and the work that you are doing is important. And we appreciate you guys so much. And thank you, Dr. Henney, so much. The work that you're doing is so important. And thank you for the opportunity.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah.